What's up guys, my name is Ace, and it is finally time for the big gameplay reveal, and in today's video, this is just going to be a rapid fire of a bunch of things that you need to know about Modern Warfare. This is designed to be just really fast bullet points. I'm not getting into too much depth here, and I am going to be keeping my opinions mostly out of this video. This sort of stuff will be coming in the following videos, so if you're looking for more depth on something I mentioned here, don't worry, I have you covered. But for today's video, this is just designed to be a bunch of things to give you guys a general feel of what's changing and what's coming with Modern Warfare. Before we get into this, just a big thank you to Activision for flying me out, putting me up at a hotel so I could attend the event and record this early gameplay and get all of this information to share with you guys. And also keep in mind, as I go through this list, this is an early and limited build, and everything here is subject to change in the future. Without further ado, let's hop into it. First up, the minimap is gone. There is no minimap unless you earn a personal UAV for a 2-kill streak, or a standard UAV for the entire team for a 3-kill streak. The minimap has been replaced by a compass on the top of the screen, which will show you the direction of enemy gunfire, so if you want to chase dots, then it is still perfectly viable to do that, but you will not have a minimap unless you have a UAV or personal UAV active. The pick 10 system is gone for this game. There is no pick 10. It's more of a traditional class setup, so you pick your primary, your secondary, 3 perks, a lethal, and a tactical. When it comes to attachments, this is where the gunsmith comes in, and this allows you to have 5 attachments for your primary and secondary out of 8 attachment slots. And the interesting thing with attachments in this game is they all have pros and cons. So one example would be an attachment that allows you to strafe faster while aiming down sights. That might also reduce your aim down sight speed. For each gun, there's going to be roughly 30 to 60 attachments that you can choose from for the gun. Each of them will have different pros and different cons. With some guns in the game, you can use attachments to completely convert that gun to a different class of weapon. So one example is the AUG is an SMG in this game. However, you can use an attachment that will convert it to an assault rifle. Shotguns in this game are primaries, not secondaries, and the marksman rifle category is back. Within Creator Class, we have the 3 different tiers of perks, and just a couple notable perks here. We've got a perk that allows you to make it so your kill streak kills within that same life will contribute to your next kill streak, kind of like we saw in Modern Warfare 2. Additionally, with the Ghost perk, this is always active for you. You don't have to be on the move to activate Ghost like we've seen in recent Call of Duty games. It's always going to be active for you. Although I will say I'm not too sure yet how it interacts with the advanced UAV. On top of the Creator Class, you also choose a field upgrade. This doesn't apply to individual classes, it's just an overall thing that you select that will be applied to your character when you enter a game. These field upgrades give you abilities that are somewhat comparable to an extremely limited version of a specialist ability. They're nowhere near the specialist abilities of Black Ops 4. So with these, we have the munitions box, which is kind of like Crash's assault pack. You can drop that and teammates can come pick up ammo from it. There's a recon drone, which you can call in and you can fly around and mark enemies for your teammates. There's stopping power, which is a really slow recharging one. And with this, once it charges up, it gives you 1 magazine of stopping power rounds that deal extra damage. There's a trophy system that you can deploy to block any sort of throwable equipment. There's a tactical insertion that you can use. And finally, we had access to deployable cover, which is somewhat similar to Torque's barricade, although there's no microwave effect and it's not nearly as tall as well, so it's not nearly as effective as Torque's barricade. Those are the only field upgrades we had access to in this build. There will likely be more in the full build of the game. Next up, we have operators, and operators in this game are purely cosmetic. This is just you choosing your skin and what you want to look like in-game. There are no different abilities attached to these operators, and also hitboxes are going to be consistent across all operators. And with this, you choose what you want to look like for each side of the match, either Coalition or Allegiance. That will depend on which side of the map you spawn on, so that's why you have to select 2 of these operators. Getting a little bit more into gameplay things, there is unlimited sprint in this game, although the standard sprint is toned down from what you used to in Call of Duty, because we also have a super sprint option, which is much faster than the normal sprint that we're used to in COD, but the super sprint feature is limited. You can only super sprint for a short period of time, and when super sprinting, your sprint out time is painfully slow, so if you run into an enemy, you're basically dead at that point. When it comes to healing, we are going back to the auto heal mechanic. You don't have to self-heal. You will automatically just start regenerating health over time. And also, we are returning to a 100 health system instead of 150. And the time to kill is fast, like we're used to with the older Call of Duty games, although it's definitely not instant. There were several situations where I could take damage and still get away and get behind cover. When you're hurt in this game, especially if you get hurt a lot, your vision will turn black and white, instead of just having that red jelly that appears on the screen. Next up, all guns in this game are using a projectile system, so they actually fire real bullets. There is no hit scan system at all in this game. Also, sliding is back. There's no dolphin dive or anything like that. You can slide. Jump shots are doable in this game, but they're not nearly as powerful as something like Black Ops 4. You don't seem to jump nearly as high, and therefore it just doesn't seem to help that much to be jump shotting all the time. Drop shots are also doable, but not super fast by any means. When it comes to recoil, it's definitely high recoil. This is probably the highest recoil we've ever seen in Call of Duty, although it is very predictable as well, and therefore it's quite controllable. When it comes to footstep audio, footsteps I found were only really audible when there wasn't a bunch of gunfire going on. So if you're in a really quiet situation and you're not really moving around too much, you can hear an enemy approach, but in most other situations, you couldn't hear footsteps. Going off of that, there was also no ability to use dead silence whatsoever in the build that we played. Perhaps it will come in some form in the future, but as of now, there is no dead silence. One new feature in this game is you can change your loadout mid-game, so if you want to change up your attachments or your weapon or your perks, you can do that in the middle of the game. When it comes to kill streaks, we have a pure kill streak system, so it's not point streaks. You get absolutely no credit whatsoever towards your streak if you're playing the objective. Only kills matter. And also, I want to point out that kill streaks are not tied to individual class setups. You pick your kill streaks, and those are your kill streaks, no matter which class you choose. Also, on this same note, at least in the build we played, there was no support or specialist strike package, so I'm not talking specialists like Black Ops 4, I'm talking the specialists where you earn perks for going on a streak. Those were not in this build of the game, although again, that's stuff that could potentially come in the future. Getting into the maps, there are doors that you can interact with on, I believe, every single map. This is basically every building will have doors that you can actually open and close, and you can interact with them in various ways. If you sprint through the door, it won't slow you down at all, you just sprint through it, but it's very loud if you do this. So if somebody's camping in that building, they will hear you coming. So you can also peek through the doors, you can go through very, very slowly, and it will be silent. And also, explosions near a door will blow that door open. It won't destroy the door, it just blows it open for you. When it comes to spawning, there is a new respawn animation. It's kind of like Battlefield, where the camera kind of flies in from the sky and then goes towards where your spawn point is, and then you spawn in and you're ready to go. In this build of the game, every respawn game mode had a respawn delay. It wasn't a very long delay, but it was at least a few seconds for every mode that we played, even Team Deathmatch. When in-game, you can mount your gun. It's kind of like the lean feature from Ghosts, although it's a little bit different. You have to hit a button to actively lean around a corner. And also, it does appear that you expose more of your body than you did back in the Ghost days when you were leaning. Additionally, with this mounting or leaning mechanic, this will reduce your recoil if you're mounted onto a surface. When it comes to melee, it's going to be a 2-hit melee to the front of the body or a 1-hit execution, which will actually play an animation if you sneak up behind somebody and hit the melee button. When it comes to executions, there's going to be unique executions for each operator, and presumably you'll be able to unlock more as the game goes on. And also, just another thing when we're talking about animations and stuff, there is no weapon inspect at all in this game, unfortunately. Getting into modes, we have a 2v2 mode called Gunfight, then we've got standard 6v6, 10v10, which is our ground war, and then we also have access to a 20v20 mode, so 40 people on the map at once. And with each of these modes, the maps will be unique. So for 2v2, those are the gunfight maps. They are very, very small. For 6v6 and 10v10, I believe they will be sharing a lot of the same maps. Those are your standard sort of medium-sized maps. And then for 20v20, we have massive, like absolutely massive maps. The biggest maps we've ever seen in regular Call of Duty multiplayer before. And also when it comes to map design, it seems like there's a lot of variety. There's definitely some 3-lane maps in there, but then there's other maps that are not that traditional 3-lane design. In that 20v20 mode with those really massive maps, you also have access to ATVs, which allow you to traverse the map a little bit faster. Also with maps, there will be several night versions of maps in the game, and with some of these night maps, night vision goggles will be basically required to play the map properly. And when you use night vision goggles, I just wanted to point out there is no fully aim down sight mechanic. You don't actually fully aim down sight. That's to simulate real life because those goggles would get in the way if you try to bring the gun up to your face. Although apparently if you use sights that have a riser on them, you will be able to fully aim down sight with night vision goggles equipped. Also when using night vision goggles, when you aim down sight or half aim down sight, an IR laser will come out of your gun to where you're aiming, and everybody that's using night vision goggles, both teammates and enemies, can see this laser. So you definitely have to be selective when aiming down sight while using night vision in dark areas, because enemies can see where you're aiming as well. When it comes to game modes, there's a brand new search and destroy style mode called Cyber Attack, and with this you can revive teammates that get downed, and also there's a somewhat randomized bomb spawn. So there's going to be like 3 locations that briefcase bomb will spawn at, and each round it will spawn at a different one of those 3 locations. Also, when it comes to game modes, the Headquarters game mode is coming back. I'm not talking about the COD World War II Headquarters, I'm talking about the actual game mode Headquarters. Next, I want to talk a little bit about Crossplay. Crossplay is there, it is working, and we were playing Crossplay at this event. We were playing with PlayStation versus PC. There was no Xbox at the event. That's likely due to the deal that Activision has with Sony. They're probably not allowed to show off any Xbox gameplay until later on. But we were playing PC versus PlayStation. Also, I want to point out in the settings on console, there is native mouse and keyboard support. So if you want to plug a mouse and keyboard directly into your console without any sort of Zim or Cronus Max or anything like that, you can do that. And the game does have that input detection as well. So presumably, the way Crossplay will work when it's actually in the wild is mouse and keyboard players will play with other mouse and keyboard players, whereas controller players will play with other controller players. So if you're on PC and you plug a controller in, you can then get into console lobbies. And on the other end of that, if you plug a mouse and keyboard into your PS4, you will now be placed in PC lobbies. At the event, they were just mixing everybody together, so mouse and keyboard as well as controllers, probably just to make things run a little bit smoother at the event. And one thing that was nice is when you do have varied input devices within the lobby, like different people using different input devices, it does display that within the pre-game lobby and the post-game lobby. You can see who's using a mouse and keyboard and who is using a controller. Diving a little bit into the settings, there are 2 different motion blur settings, one for the world and one for your weapon, and you can enable or disable both of those. I would recommend disabling them, and I do have it disabled in all of my gameplay here. Also, just like with Infinite Warfare, there is a film grain setting, and you can turn film grain off, which once again, I did do that because film grain I find is a little bit annoying. Also, when it comes to setting, on console, at least in this build, there was no aim down sight sensitivity setting on console, yet there was one on the PC settings if you plug a controller in. Also on console, there was no setting to adjust your field of view at all. You were locked with the standard field of view, and there were a very wide variety of controller layouts to choose from, which is great. Now, the last thing I have on my list here is something they pointed out during the presentation they did for us. There is no Season Pass. They didn't say no traditional Season Pass. There is no Season Pass this year, and they very clearly stated every map in the game, both at launch and post-launch, will be free for everybody that owns the game. They will not be splitting the player base up based on maps. And with that, that's going to be wrapping up this list, although there's one last thing. I have partnered with Kontrol Freek to host a giveaway for you guys. And with this, you can win a copy of Modern Warfare, and you have the option to win various Modern Warfare themed Kontrol Freek items. I will leave a link down below if you guys are interested in signing up for that giveaway. But with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's quick video. There's going to be a ton of Modern Warfare content coming on this channel, including my really detailed and honest opinions on the game. That will be coming very soon. I just wanted to get this video up for you guys first, to give you guys the most amount of information possible. If you enjoyed this video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more Modern Warfare content if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time. Yeah.